And a perfect time to speak directly to the White House. Let's bring in my first guest, Mercedes Schlapp, White House Senior Advisor for Strategic Communications. Mercedes, always great to see you. A lot to get to.
Great to see you.
Let's talk about the former president for the first time going after Donald Trump by name.
Well, let me tell you, I mean, President Obama had 8 years to complete his hope and change in America. And the only real change agent has been President Trump. We've seen, for example, that President Obama, who's taking credit apparently for the economic miracle, is the one that spent billions of dollars in stimulus money while creating a stagnant economy. On the other hand, you have President Trump. Clear contrast. We're seeing a booming economy because of President Trump's vision, because of his economic policies, pushing forward historic tax cut and tax reform legislation, making sure that we have a deregulatory agenda that has been pushed forward, getting rid of these job-killing regulations. For what we are seeing right now is consumer confidence at an all-time high, more business investments in America. Remember, there was a time that when President Trump got elected, the left was saying 1% would be the new norm in growing GDP, in our GDP growth. They mentioned the fact that the stock market would crash. We're seeing record highs, and that's because of what President Trump's vision in terms of the economy, and we're seeing the effects. Just today, we saw the jobs reports number, 201,000 jobs created. We keep, again, the longest stretch that we've seen in terms of job creation, wages rising, American families benefiting from the tax cuts. We are on the right. This is why the president is being so effective as he goes across the country talking to the American people about his incredible success, while President Obama is just giving another professor-like speech. I'd recommend for President Obama to show up to one of President Trump's rallies to see where the real energy is at.
Well, that would be interesting. I want to talk with you about where the former president was kind of, if you will, targeting his comments today. He specifically said, Mercedes, over and over, even if you don't agree with me, even if you don't agree with Democrats, even if you don't agree with people across the aisle, he said, if you're libertarian, you're evangelical, even if you don't agree at times with each other, you should be concerned. He's talking to the eligible voters, which he says now number more than any other generation. And the White House says what?
Well, I mean, especially for the evangelical community, for those that have seen President Trump in action in terms of defending religious liberties, not playing identity politics, basically being a strong advocate for pro-life provisions here and regulations that we've seen the president push forward. I mean, the president has been standing with the religious community, making sure that they're not being bullied or dictated by the rules of the left. You know, they were really pushed aside under President Obama and saying that the government would be holier than thou. And that really impacted those communities. And let me tell you something. President Trump, in terms of his record when it comes to picking the Supreme Court nominees, we saw it with Supreme Court now Justice Neil Gorsuch. Obviously, this week has been an incredibly important week with Brett Kavanaugh during his hearings, where he just gave a stellar performance in talking about the importance of a strong belief of precedent, at the same time of being an originalist and a strong belief in protecting the Constitution. It's very clear that the president has stood by the side of the religious community, of those who want to basically express their faith freely, and as well as standing by the forgotten men and women. Remember, we have to remember that that election in 2016 was a rebuke on Obama's legacy, and President Trump has successfully been able to dismantle that legacy and basically provide relief to American families.
All right, I want to step in with a couple of things. The former president today saying this didn't start with Donald Trump. He is a symptom, not a cause. He says the biggest threat to our democracy is indifference and cynicism. I want to give you a chance to respond to that, but I also want to let people know that while we have been tracking the president's movement during Barack Obama's speech, he's made a lot of news aboard Air Force One. So let me get you, just if you will, Mercedes, to respond to those words by Barack Obama, and then let's move to President Trump and the news that's being made.
He talked about President Obama talked about the vacuum of democracy. I don't know if he's checked in with his party lately, but they're pushing forward a very socialist, liberal agenda, something that is very dangerous to American values. The mere fact that they push forward the single-payer systems, that they want free Medicare for all, everything free as possible. We know it comes with a very steep price. That's not what American values stand for. And that is why when he talks about the vacuum of democracy, he's got to look right into his own party and see where his party is going, which is way far to the left, which is very dangerous for America. For President Trump, it's about standing up, putting his hand on his heart, basically supporting the national anthem, supporting our country and his love for America. And those are the cultural values that we support.
All right, Mercedes, I'm going to look down now because I want to be able to say what the president said just moments ago aboard Air Force One. He called on Attorney General Jeff Sessions of the DOJ to investigate the New York Times column after, as we know, the Times had that op-ed by an unnamed source. He says it is a matter of national security. Why is it a matter of national security to find out who wrote that op-ed?
Well, it's very clear that this apparent senior administration official is doing what he or she can to basically be deceitful, to ensure that they basically resist or obstruct what the president's agenda is. That's just outright not only coward but dangerous, because of the mere fact that what you want in your team is making sure that individuals are able to support the president's agenda. I have to tell you, Harris, I've worked for 2 presidents. It's an honor to serve the president of the United States. It's an honor to serve this country. The mere fact that this individual, this anonymous source, has decided to put his or her interest before the country's interest is very disturbing. So I would say go get a job with Senator Warren. I think, and resign from your current position, because, I mean, I've even talked to Democrats who have told me, Harris, they're like, that is so disturbing. The mere fact that you would have someone in your administration that is willing to betray and really stand against this president and be anonymous about it.
It's the betrayal part, and we've seen other presidents, and in fact, it's ironic that we're hearing from Barack Obama because he's one of those who went after his enemies. and there were prosecutions, and he went after those people who were talking in whispers and working against him. The president was very patient early in his presidency. We talked about it. We've talked about it on Outnumbered. It sounds like the president's patience has run out. And again, I want to double down with this because I really want to understand it. How does it put national security at risk to have an op-ed person not be named?
Look, I can't comment on any of the internal deliberations or any part of a future investigation. What I can tell you is what this anonymous source has done is really just, it's really unfortunate. It's for us that sacrifice day in and day out for this country, for President Trump, to ensuring that his agenda is implementing this guy or this person, the source, is lying. It's someone who obviously doesn't know the president, who doesn't engage with the president in the same way that those of us that do every single day. We see President Trump in his meetings where he is the one making the final decision, where he brings in a group of advisors to have very robust discussions on a variety of issues.
And I understand it because you're sitting and you're talking about these having priority conversations. Mercedes Schlapp of the White House, thank you.